3-hour Olympic weightlifting training sessions, 10-hour marathon-style triathlon circuits, Rich Piana's 8-hour arm workouts. Most are content with the ordinary training routine. Hit the gym 3 to 5 times a week, train hard, and profit. For some, though, the call is too much to resist. For those select few with motivation and dedication to spare, one idea always remains. What if I did more? What happens when I take this to the extreme level? That's what I want to discuss today. How much can you get from a single workout? Is one extreme training session enough to cause noticeable, positive changes to body composition and athletic ability? Well, when looking at the 3 extreme examples I mentioned before, there is a clear distinction between each. Olympic weightlifters might spend 3 hours training because their sport is very technical and skill-based. The workout isn't long because the volume of work is extraordinarily high, though it is usually still up there, but because long rest periods are taken to ensure every attempt is done from a place of complete readiness. In Olympic weightlifting, skill is important above all other things, and taking time between attempts is the best way to make sure all practice is perfect practice. The triathlete trains for many hours because that's specific to the sport. Unlike the Olympic weightlifting example where everything was focused on perfecting one explosive show of skill and power, a triathlete trains to endure over a long period of time, usually for many hours. In this example, the triathlete trains for so long for the sake of specificity, not as an attempt to cause some type of super adaptation. That leaves the final example, and the one I find most exciting, the Rich Piana 8-hour arm workout. This workout isn't meant to make you a more technically efficient curler like with the weightlifter, and no one is training for an 8-hour curling competition, so specificity isn't the point either, like it is with the triathlete. This example is an attempt at doing something extreme to speed up the muscle building process. Unlike the other 2 examples, this is largely unexplored territory. 9 times out of 10, if you look at the current research, you're likely to find something along the lines of, there is an upper limit to how much change can take place in a designated period of time. Going past the upper threshold of that limit only serves to wear down the trainee unnecessarily and will not have any additional positive effects on body composition. Now, of course, who am I to go against that? Nobody. I can't, and I won't claim to think any of that is false. 99.9% of the time, using a reasonable training setup is the only realistic way forward. But then again, how many research papers have been written on the effectiveness of ultra training sessions like an 8-hour arm workout? And if they have been written, how many of them can accurately determine the beneficial or negative long-term effects that come as a result? What of nucleus overload, or the completely foreign signal sent out by the brain as a response to such a ridiculous workout? What of the mind-muscle connection that would undoubtedly stick around after something like that, improving the effectiveness of workouts in the following months? Or probably completely impossible to make anything other than an educated guess about in a research setting, what about the improvements to one's mind? Imagine the willpower it takes to push through something like an 8-hour arm workout. Imagine how much easier everything else will feel by contrast, and how much harder you may be able to push during a typical hour-long training session as a result. Again, I'm not making any claims about anything, yet I don't think anyone can accurately say they know the effects of doing something like this unless they've actually done it themselves and had the self-awareness to track their progress in the following months. I don't know the answer, and anyone who says they do is full of it, in my opinion. But one thing we can't deny is the excitement that comes with something like an 8-hour arm workout. How much could you accomplish in a single day? What if you really could add a full inch to your arms like the program suggests? What if you could push so hard that your strength increases noticeably from a single session? It's exciting. It's a possibility for more, a hidden thing yet to be mapped out, like the deep parts of an ancient forest unseen by human eyes for centuries. What secrets lie buried? What overgrown, long-dead cities remain? Or in our case, what adaptations lie dormant, waiting to be adapted to? A few years ago, I read a book that changed my views on training and gave me a bit of insight and hope into that unexplored place of extreme workouts. The book was called Rock, Iron, Steel, The Book of Strength by Steve Justa. Near the beginning of the book, Steve recalls a story from his time working at a foundry. One day, he got moved to a new station because the usual guy called in sick. He thought himself pretty tough at that point, with 10 years lifting experience behind him already, and assumed the job would be an easy one, considering the guy who usually did it, the one who called in sick, was a skinny 140 pounds, while Steve weighed a solid 250. The job was this: every 3 minutes or so, a still warm steel coupler would travel down a conveyor belt from the foundry room. This would continue for the entire 12-hour shift. Each one weighed between 150 and 300 pounds. The job was to lift each coupler and hit it with a 10-pound hammer to remove the leftover hot and sticky core sand from the manufacturing process. Because the sand was often stubborn, Steve would have to lift each piece of metal upwards of 15 times, picking it up from different awkward positions and hitting it at different angles. He couldn't take his time with it either. If he was slow, he'd end up with a backlog of many pieces waiting to be worked on and would never get any rest. Needless to say, after a few hours, Steve was completely wiped out. Every inch of his body was exhausted and shaking. He had a newfound respect for that 140-pound guy after that, and came to a realization. Then I thought to myself, what good is it to be strong if you can't summon the strength over and over again? This is where endurance lifting comes in. Right then and there, I made up my mind that I had to make myself tougher, mentally and physically. Paragraphs later, he goes on to say, "There is more to being an Iron Man than how much weight you can lift for a few reps, or a max, or a workout of 5 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 10. When it comes to being a true man of iron, in my opinion, you should be able to do 40 to 50 sets, or 80 to 100 sets of moderately heavy weight. Not to the point of huffing and puffing, but to the point where you can do a movement over and over again for 3 to 5 hours if called upon." Now, I don't know about you, but coming from a traditional lifting background, this was a completely foreign concept. Strength endurance is so rarely talked about. This was finally something of an insight into that place of 8-hour arm workouts and pushing beyond what's normal. For the first time, this represented a realistic set of benefits you could get from a challenge workout like this. I'm not much of a skeptic, all said and done, but the idea of truly adding and maintaining an inch of solid muscle to your arms as an advanced lifter in a single day seems a bit unlikely. Although I'm not claiming to say it won't work, maybe it does, but the idea of strength endurance, that makes sense to me. This takes the 8-hour arm workout, something that usually lives in a purely muscle-focused space, and marries it with the triathlete's training, where specificity is the point. This takes a muscle-building activity like lifting heavy things and combines it with the specific training quality that is strength endurance. This book gave me a reason to try something a bit crazy, and the results were so beneficial I stuck with it for years. At the time of reading that book, I was also very interested in stone lifting, I still am, and had recently discovered the true powerhouse of an exercise that is the bear hug carry. The bear hug carry is nothing more and nothing less than a complete reworking of your body. It changes you in every positive way there is. It takes gym strong and makes it farmer strong, filling in any and all gaps in strength you may have developed. It fixes your posture, it builds so much muscle, the upper back and biceps more than anything, and also seems to make your body better able to add mass to your frame when you're doing other things. The bear hug carry is like a main line directly into your brain, bringing with it one simple word: adapt. Your body responds to the exercise quickly and in the best ways possible. After reading Steve's book, and just as a quick note, Steve seemed like such an interesting character, and I wish he were still around to write more books so I could read them. He was like the farmer strong version of that grandfather-in-law with broken down appliances covered in old Budweiser cans decorating the front lawn, the type of chain-smoking old guy who made his garage into the ultimate man place and never left. You can actually still find some videos of him on YouTube if you go looking. I recommend it. Anyway, after reading Steve's book, I figured, why not combine his findings with the ultimate body-changing exercise, the bear hug carry. I've been doing this workout once a month, every month that I'm able, less so in the winter when it's slick and muddy outside, but here's how it goes. I'll take one of my moderately heavy stones, my favorite for this is a roundish 200-pound stone I call the glacier stone, and I'll do laps around my yard, and I'll keep doing laps for a couple hours. In between laps, I'll rest as needed, drinking water, tending the fire if I have one, playing fetch with my dogs, whatever, and I'll go again. I haven't measured the distance, but my best so far is just under 40 40 laps, and I'd like to reach 50 laps soon. A workout like this tests you in a way you're probably not used to. Every part of your body will be completely exhausted. You'll be scraped up from the stone or whatever object you chose to use, and sandbags are a great choice, by the way. And if you had to clasp your fingers to carry it, you'll most likely be missing some skin. The first time I did a workout like this, I experienced something very similar to growing pains in my legs, like you'd get when you were younger. I was very proud of that, to be honest, though it did make sleeping that night difficult. It makes for a brutal and unforgiving training session, but the benefits are worth it. First is the muscle gain. I am 100% convinced that adding a workout like this once a month made more of the weight I gained on my bulks go to muscle rather than fat. If a normal workout is waving a flag in your mind saying, hey, we need more muscles, so this isn't so bad next time, a strength endurance marathon session is a fireworks display painting the truth in the sky, adapt or break. Once a month had a positive effect on every workout following, and I believe it played a big part in my last successful bulk where I added roughly 15 pounds of pure muscle in about a year and a half. I also saw a major skill improvement from these challenge workouts. I once took my 165-pound stone and shouldered it 100 times. That did more for my technique in a single session than everything I'd done in the months leading up to it. As you fatigue, your body has no choice but to complete the movement in the most efficient way possible. You really learn the proper way to do an exercise. The same goes for carries. You learn pretty quick the best way to carry something. This has implications for other things too. Imagine deadlifting a barbell every couple minutes for hours on end. You'd have no choice but to adapt. Most important of all was the effect these workouts had on my mind. They act as a total reset, a complete rewiring of the brain into the proper alignment. It's no secret that doing hard things makes life more enjoyable by contrast. This is the main reason I personally continue to train in some way every day. Well, these strength endurance challenge workouts are about as tough as it gets. Once a month is enough to make the rest of life just feel easier. It makes those 100 small, annoying parts of the day insignificant. A quiet calm envelops you and sticks around for a while. It's a big improvement. I think most anyone could benefit from regular use of challenge workouts like this. Regardless of the exercise or the training tool you use, pushing your limits from time to time in some way can truly benefit every aspect of your training and your life. A 2-hour bear hug carry session isn't nearly the same as an 8-hour arm workout, but they both exist in a similar space, that wonderful, less explored territory where anything is possible. Doing things the normal way is fine, but for those of you who get excited by the idea of doing more, of forcing adaptation beyond what's typically thought of as practical, I hope this video served as some motivation. To answer the question I brought up at the start of this video, how much can you get from a single workout? I believe the answer is a lot more than you'd expect.